Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I do appreciate it. I did an interview with Bonnie yesterday about the Kenya shilling, the stock exchange, and a number of East African issues. That link is the first item on Rich Wrap-Ups right now. Macro thoughts. The Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras talks to the press at the end of the Eurozone Leaders Summit. Photograph Laurent Dubreuil, EPA. And Bloomberg is saying Tsipras moves from predator to prey at Euro Torture Summit. Two officials who observed Tsipras at the Brussels showdown independently described him as a beaten dog whose only remaining option was to submit to the creditor's will, carving out a concession here and there. Tsipras fretted privately about the reception that awaits him in Athens. Under fire at home, Tsipras pulled off minor tactical victories, notably by retaining a measure of Greek control over a privatization fund that would raise up to 50 billion euros by selling state assets, a target that proved unreachable in prior bailouts. My conclusions are that Tsipras got creamed. Home thoughts: 1,000 dreams within me softly burn. Arthur Rimbaud, in spirit of Bastille Day. 3 billion miles away, a NASA probe comes within a stone's throw of the solar system's only former planet. NASA mission called New Horizons will pass by Pluto and its largest moon, Charon, at 7:49 a.m. Eastern Time. The facts need no embellishment. By the early 1990s, NASA scientists saw that there was a once in 200 years opportunity to send a spacecraft to Pluto. In 2006, New Horizons launched. In the years since, it's traveled more than 3 billion miles, flying at speeds greater than 30,000 miles per hour. It will take nearly a year and a half to send back all of the data that New Horizons collects. I'll put up an image of Pluto. And then going back to Arthur Rimbaud, come from forever and you will go everywhere. And this one I liked. Eternity is the sun mixed with the sea. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of the sunrise in Mombasa because there's plenty of sea and sun there. Freddie Amazing tweeted, "This is an opening of a portal to another dimension, and no one can tell me otherwise," and put up this photograph. And then Sarah Rapp, Happy Bastille Day, and I liked her photographs of the fireworks in the Eiffel Tower. Political reflections, obviously, big deal is Iran. Major powers have reached a historic nuclear deal. I'll put up a photograph that was posted by Reuters alongside that report. And I tweeted, that the Iran deal is a game changer, which it is. And I think John Kerry, Zarif, President Obama, Khamenei, and even Brzezinski deserve a shout out. And I wrote about this as long ago as October 2013, which was when this thing started to gain traction. And I said, then the recent rapprochement between President Obama and Iran's Hassan Rouhani has certainly snapped a losing sequence in US-Iranian relations that goes all the way back to the Iranian Revolution of 1979, when Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah was the second and last monarch of the House of Pahlavi, otherwise known as the Peacock Throne. Then I was making a play on Hussein, the name Hussein, Hussein Barak, Hussein Obama and Hassan Rouhani, saying that they share the same names, the grandsons, revered grandsons of the Prophet. And I think this is a singular foreign policy achievement for the President and his team, and for Iran and their team as well. I'll put up that Ai Weiwei's famous "What's in a Name," which I adore, which is up in the Hawthorne, and you can read it. It's such a beautiful statement, isn't it? I'll put up a photograph of Ayatollah Khomeini, who of course was the father of the Iranian Revolution, and I'll put up a photograph of the Shah of Iran as well, and I've been watching the documentaries about him, there's some tremendous BBC documentary about him. Do watch it. It's in 3 parts. It's about him, and then it's about the revolution, the post-revolutionary phase. The New Yorker says of Palmyra, "It was one of the most extraordinary cities in antiquity. It was literally a city where East meets West." And when you think of that, and then you think of July the 5th, when ISIS forced what looked like child executioners to shoot dead 25 Syrian soldiers at the ancient ruin. And I'll also put up a photograph of the sunrise at Palmyra. Hillary Clinton says, "I have just one word for Donald Trump: basta." El Chapo Guzman vows to make Donald Trump swallow his words, according to a report in the Telegraph. Guzman and his supporters wasted no time lambasting Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto as a coward, but reserved particular ire for Mr. Trump, who has accused Mexico of sending rapists and criminals to America. A post riddled with obscenities on a Twitter account reportedly run by the drug lord's son Ivan said the billionaire businessman would be made to swallow his words. I'll put up a photograph of El Chapo Guzman and also a photograph I found from above of the Empire State Building. Currency traders are taking Greece's bailout agreement as a green light to sell the euro. It's around 110 the figure as we speak. It traded as low as 109.73. Dollar index 96.96. Japanese yen 123.37. Swissy 0.9523. The pound 154.63. Aussie 0.7428. India rupee 63.545. South Korean won is softening some more, 1142.39. The Rial 313.61. Egyptian pound 782.77. And the Rand 1245.65. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. We did a lot of work around this 94 to 96, 97 area. We might be turning higher now. I think it targets 100 and then 110 on this index. Euro dollar got as low as 109.70 that I saw, and I think it's set to target 104.57 again, which was the low from March. Crude oil, my target is now $44, obviously slipping sharply on the Iranian news, so let me put up a 1-month chart. Gold, 1154.72, I'll put up a 6-month chart. I think it continued to sell rallies. The Shanghai gauge has rebounded 14% in the past 4 days, spurred by speculation the government's interventionist measures to end a rout that wiped out almost $4 trillion of value are working. They've thrown everything at it. Chinex has rebounded 20% from the lows, would normally signal a bull market, but a third of all shares are still suspended as the gauge's 30-day volatility surged to a record. I found an animated chart of China's stock market boom crash, and from Business Insider I'll put that up as well. Tom Malinowski, obviously a US official, says that the US condemns violence by all sides in Burundi and will reject legitimacy of all who extend their power or seize it unlawfully. Pretty forthright language. Padraich says so unless Nkurunziza actually chooses to step down or loses the election, US will reject any leadership in Burundi. Burundian soldiers apparently killed 31 suspected rebels and detained another 170 in a forested area in the country's north, said military spokesman Gaspard Baratuza. 1 civilian was killed, 6 soldiers were wounded in the clashes. On Monday, the army was acting on information that a band of armed rebels were roaming the remote region which borders Rwanda. The group is being investigated, is said, without elaborating. AU political affairs were very forthright. Burundi is at the brink of a precipice and is a thorn for the region and the continent. Calls for courageous and selfless action by AU and national actors. Kaguta Museveni, president of Uganda, announced on July the 10th that he was appointed by the third extraordinary summit of the heads of state of the EAC to mediate Burundi talks. So clearly very volatile, and the spillover risks remain substantial. BAS Kenya tweeted 10-year sovereign bond spreads of Gabon, Ghana, Kenya, Namibia, Nigeria, Zambia, South Africa. Source World Bank Africa. Interesting to have a look at. Quite a sell-off. I'll link you again to that piece I wrote over the weekend about the Kenya-Rwanda Business Forum. And then one of the my final point was, come on, look at his performance. And so that's the point with President Kagame. And then Claire Kamenzi tweeted, Rwanda's 7th most efficient government in the world, according to the World Economic Forum. Speaking to that point, I put up the link for President Kagame's Flickr stream as well. Sonangol EP, the state-run oil company in Angola, is seeking $1 billion in cost savings by the end of the year to help cope with plunging crude prices. They want to renegotiate contracts with partners, but probably won't fire workers and their CEO. The company, the biggest in Angola, denied reports in Portuguese media on the weekend that it was technically and financially bankrupt. Sonangol is stable and doesn't expect substantial changes in its business this year. It said in a statement on Sunday, operations in Houston, Singapore, London, Brazil, Venezuela and Cuba are continuing, it said. Then I came across an interesting piece, Angola, Fear and Loathing in Rwanda. We can currently observe a great variety of morbid symptoms of fin de régime in Angola, ranging from the farcical to the tragic. It would appear that the government of longtime President José Eduardo dos Santos and his ruling MPLA can hear the pealing of the doomsday bells. The Angolan government appears in great fear of anyone who might think differently and says so in public. However, discontent with the president's poor handling of the crisis is mounting even from within the ranks of the MPLA. The open criticism of the government and heated speculations about a precipitated transition of power, including a potentially violent internal settling of accounts with the Dos Santos family and his closest allies, indicate that even a stepping up of repression might no longer be enough to stem the tides of change. East African currencies fight currency rout with aggressive rate action. This is in Bloomberg. Bank of Uganda raised its benchmark rate by 150 basis points, third increase this year. Central Bank of Kenya has raised it 300 basis points this year. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania are among the worst hit currencies in Africa this year, as heightened risk aversion prompts investors to move money out of emerging markets. As import-dependent economies, these African nations are exposed to foreign exchange reversals, while dwindling reserves mean policymakers have little ammunition to halt the decline. Domestic policy will have very little impact on the currencies. I said it's a strong dollar story, a risk aversion story. Kenyan shilling has weakened 8.8% against the dollar. In the past 3 months, the Uganda currency has dropped 9.1%. Tanzania is down 8.4%. Only the Angolan kwanza is a worse performer in Africa in the period, after slumping 12.8% against the dollar. I said I expect further weakness in the Kenya-Uganda shillings because the central banks are running out of ammunition and the dollar rally is still further to run. As I said, Uganda's central bank raised its benchmark interest rate to 14.5% at an emergency meeting to cap inflation after the currency fell to a record low. South African all-share bounced another 1.3% yesterday. It's back up 5.43% in 2015 and above 52,000 again. Dollar rand 12.45.65, Egyptian pound 7.82.77. Egyptian stock market is at fresh 27-month lows and it's down 15% year to date. Big sell-off in the last few weeks. President Buhari, let me put up a photograph of him that was tweeted of him at his desk. He has now sacked the Army, Navy and Air Force chiefs. That's what his spokesman has told the BBC. I thought he was a little bit slow off the mark, but maybe this is a signal that he's now getting to grips with the situation. Nigerian all shares down 6.2% over the last 4 weeks as the market awaited for Buhari to make his move. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 1.18% over the last 4 weeks, but we've had a great rally in the currency. The Eurobond as well, back below 8% now. According to one fashion industry executive, Africa is one of the few places where it's possible to go from fibre to factory. One place. According to Kenya Pavilion, the Prime Minister of Italy, His Excellency Matteo Renzi, will be having a public lecture at the University of Nairobi today at 2 o'clock. I desperately tried to get an interview with the man, but apparently got held up with the EU and therefore had to curtail his programme. But he struck me as an interesting fellow. A number of interviews I've seen. Shilling firmed to 101.90, 102 after some intervention from the central bank. It traded as low as 103.90 during the session. Last time I checked, 102.25. Nairobi all share down 2.21% and at a December low, December 2014. Nairobi NSE 20 down 7.609%. This is a fresh 27-month low. Yesterday, the markets actually didn't fall precipitously. They drifted lower. The all-share edge 0.15 points lower. The NSE 20 eased just 3.7 points. Williamson T, that's up 60.88% year to date and has been on a tear. A little bit like tea prices have been in Mombasa. The Economist over the weekend had this great article in which they said few firms have done more in recent years to boost Africa's fortunes than Safaricom. The article was referencing M-Pesa and a brazen attempt to tilt the pitch. Tilting the pitch will raise our risk profile and the fallout will not be limited to the telecoms industry in my view. Safaricom eased 0.9375% and closed for the first time below 16 since the end of May. Nation Media rallied 3.22%. By contrast, Standard Group fell 7.69%. GCR affirmed national ratings assigned to KCB of AA for long-term and A1 for short-term, which is the highest rating given to any bank in this region by that rating agency. KCB closed unchanged at 55. Equity Group unchanged at 44.75, but I noticed, like yesterday, it was trading higher at 46. We're trading about the same level this morning. Centum was the most actively traded share at the exchange and shaved off 0.8% to close at 61.50. EABL, which had become very oversold, rebounded 3.21% to close at 289, and Kengen bounced 1.704%. Their long telegraphed rights issue might finally be at hand. And I think people are now going to look for positioning if they wish to participate in that. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I am grateful.